What happens when we embrace the life of sin? I want you to notice how the backpack is put on the front of him. Because here's the thing. I'm gonna take this off here real quick, Ian. Let's say for the sake of this illustration that this represents the weight of the world. The weight of the world is heavy. And you know why it's heavy to us? Is because we were never intended to carry the weight of the world. Never intended to carry the weight of the world. But this is what the enemy loves to do. He says, look, you can be your own God. If you're your own God, you're in control. You get to define what's right, what's wrong. You get to live your life the way you want to live your life. And when we do that, we begin to carry things the way they're not intended to be carried. All of a sudden, we begin to do what culture's doing right now. We live our own truth. You know what happens when you live your own truth? You can't see what truth really is. You can't see what truth really is. But this isn't the most devastating part of sin. You know what the most devastating part of sin is? Is that sin can't exist in the presence of God. It has to be cast out. It has to be separated. It has to live on its own accord. It can't enjoy the life that the Father has intended his imago Dei to live. And it doesn't just do that. It separates, and what it does is it gives these profound promises like it's gonna satisfy you in a really unique kind of way. And this is what it does. Is it thinks we're gonna have a good life. We think that if we embrace it, this is really what living looks like. This is what living our own truth looks like. This is what living as our own authority in God's universe looks like. And I need you to hear me. I need you to hear me. God hates this. God hates this. Oh, far too often we stop talking about the wrath of God in church. And hear me, if we stop talking about God's wrath, if we fail to understand the weight of God's wrath, we won't understand the weight of his grace and love. God hates us. It's not hating Ian. It's not hating what he's created. You know what he hates? This separation, this distance between him and his beloved child. And so this is what Paul is saying. He's saying, who is going to separate us from the love of God? Do you know what the love of God looks like? It looks like this: God the Father in heaven, looking at his creation, looking at his children separated from him, and taking his son and looking at his son and saying, I want that young man in my family. I'll do anything to get him in my family. I will pay for him to be in my family with my son's life. He has no ability in and of himself to get up and make it from here, from there to here. So you know what God does? He so loved the world that he looked at his son and he said, go get him. Go get him. Go get him. And here's what I want you to notice. Jesus, he's not gonna make Ian walk. The gospel is not God going, all right, I've come to you. I've saved you. Figure it out. Get your life together. Pull your bootstraps up. No. He comes and he takes his creation. And he says, I am not going to go 99% of the way. I'm not going to go 80% of the way. I'm not going to go 50% of the way. I'm going to do it all for you. But hear me, brothers and sisters. This following Jesus, it comes at a cost. It comes at a cost. This is why Paul says in Galatians 2:20 that I have been crucified with Christ. It is no longer I who live, but Christ who lives in me. To walk with Jesus is to embrace death first. You can't have a resurrection without a cross. You can't have Easter without Good Friday. But what does God do in this death? In this death is he takes the bonds that were wrapped around our hands and he puts it on the cross of Christ. He takes the bonds that keep us from following him and he puts it on the cross of Christ. He takes the chains that bind us, that keep us in bondage, and he puts it on the cross of Christ. And he takes the weight of the world. He takes the sin of the world and he puts it on the cross of Jesus Christ. And this is why Paul goes, who's gonna condemn you? Like, do you realize that the one who did not spare his only son, like he paid him, he put him on a cross and he poured out his wrath towards sin on that cross so that what could happen? What would happen? We wouldn't stay dead, but we would be raised to new life.